Power play breakout component option 1. Puck is dumped in. The goalie comes out to help the D by stopping the puck at a reasonable spot. The D sets up and tries to break out at the same time as F1. Takes advantage of the open middle, and off to the races we go. The Ds are stepping up. We'll take advantage of that too. And here we have a successful sequence. Now, I always laugh to myself because at 85 to 90% of these animations always end in a goal. And I always try and come up with nifty sequences to sort of, give and goes or bank off the post or something of that nature. And I'm certain the goalies get very irritated to see that every animation ends up in a goal. So every now and then I try and put in a save, but I always wonder what the goalies are thinking. Anyways, having said that, moving forward, um, we had some problems at practice trying to understand certain important elements to this breakout. Namely, I'll just backtrack a little bit. Namely, in 3 specific areas. One was, why does the defenseman come out tight to the net? 2, what's the timing supposed to be like between the defenseman and the swinging forward? And 3, um, the, the team on the penalty kill, the D's start off on the blue line and ended up staying on the blue line. And if you look at the animation, the D's kind of step up. And so I always find it difficult because when you don't do what is typically done in certain situations, like say step up in the neutral zone during a penalty kill, and you just stay on the blue line, then our team tries to execute the drill in front of them, but the drill in front of them is not appropriate anymore. If you're going to stay on the blue line, we wouldn't do the drill the way it's sort of designed. And so it ends up breaking down, and it's like, okay, so what's going wrong? And so I either have to change the drill to say, if you're going to see a defenseman standing on the blue line, don't do it. But that adds a lot of information at the time of practice and can overload players. So I understand why there was a little bit of confusion. And if I go to the defending team and say, listen, you're kind of mucking up the gears of the drill. You need to get yourself off the blue line and attack the neutral zone. In your head, you're like, hold on a second. I stayed on the blue line and it worked. Now you're making me attack the neutral zone and it doesn't work. I'm getting mixed signals. And really, what you have to understand is when you're playing the role of the opposition team, especially in drills where we're trying to learn new things, your job is to actually facilitate success. Players need to get a feel for what it feels like when the execution of a drill works well. Then we can get into what happens when it doesn't really work out the way you had practiced. Okay. We can work out those other options. And so, anyways, so then I felt like there was a little bit of resistance in this drill from an overall understanding perspective. So that's what we're here for. We're here to sort of break it down and see if we can't understand it a bit better. Okay, so I'm going to push play one more time. So same thing, goaltender sets the D up for success by stopping the puck. Okay, this forward here, that's going to do their loop. Okay, it's going to do their loop. In this drill, um, because you know that that's the part of the drill that you have to execute, you just did it anyways, regardless of what the situation was over here. Like where was the D and how much longer would it take her to pick up the puck and set up? Okay, what you need to know is that you got to your job is to let the D set up just in advance of you completing your curve. So the D should be settled and stationary if possible, if not being forced, as you complete your, before you're able to say around here. Okay. So then you have to sort of sit out here and pace yourself. You might be coming in really slow and you have to wait for the D to almost set up, almost get to behind the net, and then you take off hard. And the D sitting here with an extra second to sort of look up ice is going to be the one that sets the timing of the breakout. In that moment, she gets a chance to look up ice and see where the opposition is and decide which one of our power play breakout options are we going to use. Okay, that's a good thing. And we have 2 or 3 options, but they're all simple. And I'll show you how. So anyways, let me just push play. Okay, so in this situation, the D gets the puck. The F is just here, which is good. Our timing is good. You know, if the D has to sit there an extra second or so and the other team is sort of holding back, I'm okay with that. That's good. Okay. Now you can see here that what we really want when we break out is a shallow pass. We This is a good shallow angle. It's not steep. It's a shallow angle. So we want to maintain that shallow angle as much as we can, okay? So as we break out, we should break out in unison with an angle that's something like this, okay? Something like that. Oh, it's terrible. Let it fade out and I'll try and use something a little bit better. Here we go. Here we go. Something like this, okay? That's a good shallow angle. And why we want a shallow angle is the opposition has a tough time um, with this. Why? If the angle is shallow and they sit back, if they sit back here, then you can make this pass at a, you can skate all the way up here and still make this pass. Not a problem. If it were to be a steep angle, the closer you get to your opposition, okay, the easier it is for them to intercept. So you want that shallow pass so that you can draw attention to yourself for as long as you can and then make a shallow pass. So that's that. Then why do you come through the middle? If you were to come this way, you would draw attention to the side, even if it's for a little bit. And then if you wanted to hand off to this person, it's not that much of a distance to close in from the other team. By coming up the middle, you keep the opposition focused in the middle, and then you're able to hit your flanks. That's why you come up the middle. There's also another reason. If you're being chased, okay, if you're being chased, the best play to make is if you're being chased and you come up right here, then a lot of times the other player runs into the net and they really can't keep chasing you. So if someone were to chase you around the back of the net, you want to come up in this sharp angle anyways. So let's just leave it at D should come up tight to the net. Not here, but here. Okay, right about here. Okay, let's let these lines disappear. Let's see what happens. So in this particular case, their winger tries to take on the swinging forward, in which case you're going to come up the middle. Now, perfect. Now, in a lot of power plays, there's sometimes moving elements to the neutral zone. You get a girl swinging this way, then you get a girl swinging this way. And for me as a defenseman, when I played, and let's say, having coached girls for a long time, I find that when our defenseman is under pressure and there are moving parts and they can't really hit the far side, let's say, because X2 has closed that off, then they're forced to hit moving parts. And moving parts are hard to hit when you're under pressure, like if X1 was coming this way, okay? Or in a way where this pass is not necessarily safe either. It's hard sometimes. So rather than try and hit moving parts, we put a forward right here, stationary. She's there for you no matter what. You always know she's there. Our intent is to try and hit swinging forwards this way or that way, or swinging defenseman on this side. Worst case, you come up the middle and you hit a stationary person, who then is able to chip it out to the flanks who are at full speed. Perfect. And from there, we're off to the races. Okay? From there, this stationary person is there depending on the pressure you feel. What if there's a defenseman who's aggressive? You always want to know where someone who's stationary for a quick pass, okay? And here, same thing could apply. If we had someone screaming up the far side and you hit this person stationary and she feels that X3 was sort of attacking her from this angle, she could pop it out into space and have this player take it. You don't see that as part of this drill because we haven't really pieced it all together yet. But that's why I say option one. This is a scenario where we come out on this side. Having said that, the D's were stationary on the blue line. If the Ds are stationary on the blue line, you would never, um, you would typically then try and break the zone yourself. Okay, take advantage of a stationary defenseman. Or at this point, once you've stepped up here, X2 is still tight. F3 is going to scream to the net, pulling X3 with her. Okay, and then F2 comes up, and she's sitting in a high slot. So when you come up, stop, turn, quick turn, hit F2. F2 is going to the net. That's an option. That's how you break people that are standing still at the blue line. Okay. That's not what this drill was intended. Most times, most other teams will not have defense sitting at the blue line. They'll probably sneak into this area right here. And then that leaves some space in behind it, which we want to take advantage of. So what do we have here? So you see, defenseman steps up, and we take advantage of the space in behind her, and we try and create some chaos. Okay, so I hope you understand um, the elements of it and why we were frustrated here. We were frustrated here because the drill that we designed it as we designed it, you still tried to make a pass. You girls were, let me see if I can fast forward it. Right about here. I want you to imagine a scenario where X2 wasn't here, but was here still. Okay. So F1 was coming down and banking the puck. F3 hasn't moved yet, but because the X2 was so far back, you carried the puck right to about here and then banked the puck. And F3 couldn't get through because that's offside. So now we have this loose puck, and it took forever for F3 to come across, and X3 came and engaged. It breaks down, right? That's not the play. If you wanted to bank the puck to yourself, that's one thing. But then you kind of ventured off into here because that's what the drill told you to do. So this particular drill would break down if the defensemen were, for whatever reason, to hold that blue line right there. Okay. More typically, they're in this position right here. I hope you start to understand why things were breaking down at the practice the other night, because we're going to come right back and do this drill again this coming Wednesday.